The title of this video is not a joke. They're seriously all broken. The performance of the last few videos here on the channel have done extremely well, so I wanted to keep the momentum alive, but of course life throws a wrench in the plans. So I'm gonna walk you through each of the projects and give you an idea of how broken they are. There are varying degrees of broken, as you can tell. So we'll start with the Land Cruiser, and then work our way out to the truck, and then you can't see it, but the BMW is back there, and then the Sonata's back over here. So the Land Cruiser blew itself up because this front axle basically decided that it wanted to shear off the threads here, and the little C-clip that holds the axle into the spindle just ate itself alive. And not only that, but you can see how greasy and grimy and they're like milky colored substance these CVs were leaking. So this thing I bought because I had my old LX470. I'm a huge fan of the 100 series Land Cruiser platform. As you've seen before in my other videos, I had an LX470 that was super rusty and I absolutely loved it. I took it all over the country. And so I decided to sell that and buy something that's not rusty, but this thing has actually been more of a pain in the ass than my rusty one. So the end of the axle should look like this. You can tell in the shot that I just showed you that it was flat and kind of sheared off. So there's a C-clip that goes on here and you're never supposed to reuse it. But what happens is shops or whoever works on it will reuse the C-clip because they're not a common size and you have to get them from Toyota, blah, blah, blah. And then what ends up happening, the axle basically pops out of this hub assembly and then it backs in a little bit and it just basically chews itself to bits. So when I pulled over that day after that horrific sound, it looked like this and the axle was popped out, as you can clearly see. Of course, it happened in the rain on the way to a doctor's appointment, which was fantastic. And then a $200 tow later and it was back in the garage. So that pretty much sums up this, other than I was waiting on parts. Then the place I ordered from didn't have everything, so then I have to wait for stuff to come from the dealer. So this one has just been really, really frustrating. So much work with the steering rack and a bunch of other stuff that I've done to this that's all boring and I haven't included here on the channel. But this thing will eventually be reliable, but not right now. Then the truck. Oh, the truck. So since the last time you've seen it, I had an issue with the belt shredding, and it turns out I accidentally bought the wrong tensioner. I bought the 6-rib tensioner, and I also bought the wrong crank pulley. I bought a 6-rib crank pulley, and you can actually see here is the 6-rib one. This is OEM Ford. The other one on there is Dayco, but apparently that's a decent brand. So now I have two brand new parts, a belt tensioner and a pulley that I have absolutely no use for. But in other partially good news, yesterday I rented a vacuum compressor and a manifold gauge set for the AC system, and I got the AC working on this thing, which is super, super exciting. I was worried. It was actually pretty tough to do. I'd never done it with the manifold gauge and vacuum pump before, but it's not all smooth sailing, unfortunately. So this truck just has the standard, clutch fan, which is fine. These apparently move a lot of air, but obviously I'm missing the fan shroud, which I do have, but it's extremely difficult to put in. I've been able to drive with a little bit of cooling issues just to kind of get things going, but it needs cooling system work because it's overheating now. It's overheating now, both when I'm just trying to drive around in my neighborhood and then also, especially if I have the AC system on. Sitting at idle, the AC works. If I spray water on the AC condenser, the AC gets ice cold. So I know I need to overhaul the cooling system. So I'm gonna do a Raptor E-fan conversion kit, which is pretty cool. There's a guy who sells an extremely nice wiring harness. It's pretty pricey, but I'm gonna swap to that, and we're gonna have some E-fans in this thing, which is gonna be super sick. So I also need to get the 2-core radiator, which is thicker. I'm actually not sure which way it's thicker. I'm not sure if it's this way or this way, but there's one that is basically a 2-core radiator, which is much thicker. And then obviously we'll get rid of the clutch fan in favor of some E-fans on the back, which will be great. They're out of like a 2010 to 2014, F-150, but they nearly perfectly bolt in, which is cool. You have to make one little bracket, but other than that, it all kind of fits, which is sweet. So this truck is kind of functional. Oh, the other thing I haven't shared with you guys yet is I have what appears to be a transmission front seal leak, which is epic. So when you drive around a good bit, you can see that there's some wetness right there on the transmission. It leaks out a bit, so I tried a bottle of Lucas Transmission Magic in a bottle. It seems to have helped. Apparently this stuff takes some time to kind of kick in, and it will prevent some seal leaks like that, but not really drivable. Overheating is not a good condition to be in. And then in the last video, I showed trying to kind of work on the steering column situation. That's not been resolved yet, so still got a super sloppy shifter. So I'm gonna have to probably go to a junkyard and find some parts for that. And then I also really want to replace these seats. Evidently, you can swap in from like a 98 to like 2013 Navigator and Expedition. Their leather seats are direct bolt-in. The power functions you have to wire yourself, but I think I want to try to find some leather seats for this thing, get rid of these crappy cloth ones. To be fair though, even though this thing is destroyed, these are actually pretty damn comfortable seats, I will say. So overall, the truck is getting there, but with it being summertime and me wanting to tow my other project junk to the track, I've got to get the cooling system dialed in. Speaking of junk, so as you now know, the Land Cruiser was not roadworthy, and that was our daily driver, or is supposed to be. And so I was taking my girlfriend to work yesterday, everything was fine, but it started sputtering, and of course it's locked. I couldn't quite figure out why. And I never intended for this thing to be my daily, especially after it's been turboed. I love this car and it's super fun to drive, but like I said, you know, it was never supposed to be the daily. This is supposed to be the fun car, but it's turned into the daily for now. So I'm kind of going through some teething pains on that front. I've put over 500 miles now on this motor, which is awesome. I checked the catch can the other day and it just had this disgustingly awful fuel type smell fluid to it. But other than that, the inside of the engine looks incredible. Bottom of the radiator cap used to always have like a milky substance around it, but I mean, it's like pristine in there. It's incredible how well a catch can works, especially with my setup and the exhaust Venturi system here. So what's wrong with this thing? Well, it started sputtering on our way home yesterday, and it basically was like big, it was almost like fuel cuts. And I've got an upgraded Deutschwerks 300 fuel pump in here, and there's this harness relay situation that kind of all ties it in together. And the only thing that I could figure out after doing a deep once over yesterday was that this relay was getting so hot, and it was kind of chilling over here. And it was so hot to the touch that I almost couldn't even hang on to it. None of the wires were hot, but the relay itself was. So I think that relay is getting so hot that it ends up kind of cutting power to the fuel pumps, and then the whole car sputters. It'll be like, you'll be driving and then it's just like, "Ugh!" It's like a quick kick and it'll come back on. But then yesterday when it was really hot, I was letting it idle and it died while idling. So definitely wasn't safe or enjoyable to drive in that state. And of course we were like 15 miles from home, so I got it towed back home. $165 tow later, I'm starting to become a regular at this tow business. And so there's still some troubleshooting work to be done on this one, which is really annoying. I have been shaking it down for months now and it's been fine until now. It's summertime, it's really hot, it's like 90 here in Florida, and I'm starting to see some problems. Not cooling system problems, which is hilarious and weird, but relay heat problems. And last but not least, the poor Sonata. Oh, the poor Sonata. I haven't forgotten about it. This has been kind of the last car on the list to address, unfortunately. Daily driver comes first, and then second daily driver came second, and then the third daily driver came third, and this one comes last. So this one needs a good bit of work. I've touched on this in other videos, all the stuff I have to put on this thing, but haven't had a chance to yet. Got a bunch of new stuff to make the Sonata, you know, just in a really good way. New thermostat. This is a new battery kill switch so it can be mounted properly. Thermostat gasket, oil pan and transmission pan gasket. There's new radiator hoses, and then somewhere over here, it's been a while since I've seen it, there it is. There's all new battery cables so we can run some legit battery cables. All that stuff is here. I even have a crimp tool that I bought. Haven't even had a chance to open it yet. So hopefully the vehicular gods will give me a break here at some point soon and all the cars will be working. At the very least, the tow rig will be working, which means then all the other projects, the fun stuff can kind of kick in. And once all the rest of the junk is unbroken, then we can buy some more junk and fix that junk. Just wanted to give you guys an update on the fleet. Lots of work to be done, not enough time, certainly not enough money, but thank you so much for the continued support, and I'll be back with a banger at some point in the near future.